Perfect. There we go. We're good. So, Tys, thanks for coming down tonight, or well, rather coming on the show. You're out in California. I'm here in the delightful Wisconsin right now. But
Yeah.
if you wouldn't mind
Well,
just kind of introducing yourself a little bit to the folks listening.
absolutely. Again, my name's Tys Sniffen. I am the founder and chief bottle washer of a company I call Idea Mountain. And the reason I started the company or founded the company kind of the second time around, it's another story, is because I wanted to sell a bag idea I had, a travel and commuter bag, everyday carry bag system that I invented and patented and wanted to get out into the world. And I hope that I can help people travel better and lighter.
Sure. So I just got to ask, I mean, what made you want to go from Wisconsin to California despite the obvious weather climate out there?
Yep. Well, that was a while ago now. I moved out to California in 1998, and I was just turning 30 at the time, and I was living actually in Milwaukee, which is a great town, and having a great time. I'd been there for 3 or 4 years, and really enjoyed my time there. Made a ton of great friends, and it was just kind of a time for me to step up and go to the next level and kind of get in a bigger pond is kind of how I thought about it. And so there was that classic like, well, are you going to move to the East Coast or the West Coast?
Right.
And then there was a lovely lady who had moved to San Francisco on a whim. She wasn't sure she was doing it for the whole time or whatever. And I had taken a trip, and part of my kind of always trying to do international travel, I'd gone to visit some friends in Japan. And on the way back, I stopped in San Francisco to see this lovely lady. And there I am in April or March or April of, having been in Wisconsin in the slush and snow beforehand. And I just standing in San Francisco, and it's like so many cool people and so many cool things. It was the original .com boom. And it was like the flowers are blooming, and this lovely lady was there, and I was like, what am I doing? I need to come. I know where I'm going. I'm going to San Francisco. And that lovely lady later, smartly for her, figured out that I was not for her, and I proceeded to continue to live in San Francisco and had
Sure.
the .com deal where I was the sales guy for software and various things and consultant, yada yada yada. I had the first reiteration of my company called Idea Mountain, where I was a consultant helping small businesses get organized, what they now refer to, because they've had these TV shows, as professional organizers, is basically.
Yep.
But this was so long ago. I was helping people go from paper files to a Palm Pilot, and I was considered this fancy, amazing digital guru who could tell you about your Palm Pilot. And then I ended up met my now wife, and then we had an opportunity to buy property in the woods here, and we went for it. So we did this whole lifestyle change from living in the city in a tiny apartment with no car to living on 10 acres in the woods in a yurt where I am now, and proceeded to be home builders and homesteaders for 5 or 6 years,
Mhm.
which I think also, just to kind of keep on ringing my own bell, gave me these abilities to fix things, to
Mhm.
build things and see how, oh, here's a thing I bought, it's not good enough, I'm going to change it. And that's kind of the mentality I brought to the backpack system. And through various reasons, I started getting involved in tweaking my own gear and ended up kind of inventing something, and now I'm trying to sell it.
Excuse me. God. So
Yeah.
did you move out to California with the idea of starting a company, or were you moving out there to try to get ahead of that .com boom?
Really neither of those things. I was just a guy who wanted to
Flip a
go
coin.
to a big city. Yeah. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a plan. No. I wanted to go and be in San Francisco.
Mhm.
So I showed up in the city and started looking for a job.
So how'd you come up with the original iteration for Idea Mountain, and how did you come up with a name for that? I mean, if you say Idea Mountain, I don't necessarily think, Palm Pilots in that case, or, whatever the case may be in the tech industry,
Yeah,
especially if you
yeah,
look at the
yeah.
names that were coming out at the time.
Right. I don't know really. Like I thought of myself as probably just an arrogant move. I thought of myself as a guy who had a lot of ideas. Like I've got a pile of ideas. I got a mountain of ideas. Let me tell you how to fix yourself. And
Right.
like, and it was 1999 and I could buy the URL and I did. And then I just never gave it up. And so with various things, it was a blog for a while. It became the blog about building the house when we were doing that here in the woods. And then I just shifted around and then we live on a mountain and I'm still idea guy. And so it just continued to make sense. And then I'm into the backpack, and while it's not mountaineering gear, it just kind of seemed to play well and continue to be the thing. And big picture, and I hope if people are watching this and are in the business world, a small business world, thinking about it, I I wanted to be a location, a destination in a way for ideas, because when I was starting this bag concept, I tried to give it away. Basically, I tried to be like, "Hey, can I work with you as a bag company? Hey, Patagonia, how do I, or North Face, how do I talk to your bag designers?" And they're like, "No, thank you." Boom. And and I talked to a couple of other small time people who are now kind of in my same space, but they have their own ideas and their way of doing things, and they didn't want to hear my kind of funky concept, which is understandable.
Hmm.
So, but I was so frustrated. I'm like, if you guys don't work with me, I'm going to end up competing with you. Like, why don't we come together? You've got an idea for a crossbody sling, and I've got this idea for this combination modular system, and you've got an idea for an ultralight bag. Like, why are we all competing and starting businesses and spending all the money and all the superfluous things to be our own businesses? Why don't we come together? And so part of my bigger picture is to focus more on ideas and try to help other people bring ideas in my silo, but bring
Hmm.
ideas to market. So that's
Sure.
why the idea mountain kind of felt like it still was a good idea.
Sure. I mean, why choose the big backpack market? I mean, it's an
It
established
chose me,
market. There's some big
man.
names out there. Why not
It
just
chose me.
right? Why not just make the prototype and patent it and then sell it off to from that point? If you're not making, if you're not necessarily getting in the collaboration door, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. Well, um, I don't know. In part because I did need a job. I wanted to do something. I wanted to. I think I've got more than just the one idea. I think that, in a way, and this sounds kind of like corporate marketing speak, but I have some kind of lifestyle concepts that I would like to bring to the public, and through the window of gear, I want to talk to people about the philosophy of being prepared, of traveling light, of looking good, and so in my mind, I've got three or four other products that are in is still in the gear market that I'd like to pursue, and
Mhm.
so 2 years ago, yeah, maybe I could have patented it and just tried to just sell it to somebody, but I had the dream. I wanted to be just like everybody else who wants to do it. I wanted to be my own boss and have a sustainable thing that went on too.
So, and what you've come up with is the Journey, a modular bag system. So, how did you go about creating that the first time? Because I started a podcast, and I can't really say I started it because I found a guy that had a studio already, and he goes, "Yeah, here, just talking to this microphone. Go ahead." So, how do you go about creating a backpack from the ground up?
Well, great question. And by the way, you're great at it. I've been listening to your podcast, and like it's obvious why somebody would give you a microphone because
But
it's a good question.
I always say the first about 7 or 8 episodes don't really count.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the button. It's really good. But how do you go about creating it? Well, there's, I would say there's kind of three three chapters to the creation process. The first is when you're just fucking around by yourself, you don't know what you're doing at all, and you're not. There's nothing professional about it, And I started drawing on pieces of paper and talking to my wife and holding things together. Like, wouldn't it be cool if this was on this? And like, why is it? That kind of thing. And
Which I
then,
did find
and
your original looked like you did with either crayons or colored pencils.
yeah, yep. I stole colored pencils from my daughter, and this part will be the yeah, exactly. And my wife is actually a fabulous seamstress, can make amazing things, and used to make her own clothes and all that. But she is just has no time for me. Like, it's really hard to get her to make something for me. So I have to kind of use her tools and make it myself, which is fine. Not her deal. That's fine. But she does listen to me and give me feedback when I'm like, well, what if this flap was over here? And then she'll be like, oh, that'll be really hard to do. You got to go figure it out, do it different. But so there's that first process of which is basically the back of the napkin concept, where everybody has this that level. But so then I got serious, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to spend. It'll only cost me like, and I did the math. Oh, it'll only cost me like $8,000. I'll have the whole business up and running, no problem. And so I ended up through my voracious internet usage, I ended up connecting and basically networking in the bag community, and I was able to connect with a number of people in this sphere. I got connected and got some really good early advice from a designer who now works for Yeti, but he worked for Columbia before that. And he's a bit corporate guy. He likes having the real job. He's not going to start
Mhm.
his own company too, but he was great to give me insights and stuff like that. And then um, I talked to another bag company very similar to mine. Shout out to Ethnotech Bags, for a couple, Jake and Corey, who are from Minnesota, the Twin Cities, and they live in Bali now and have a multi-line of bags, and they're doing great. So good for them. They're an example of the success I'd like. And amazingly, Jake and Corey like replied to my emails when I started sending stuff to their customer service line.
Mhm.
And the reason I was talking to them is because their bags are, oh, it's super cool. Check it out, ethnotech.com. I won't sell their stuff. But one of the things they did was in their marketing, they talked about their fabulous relationship they have with their manufacturing company, which is a small factory in Vietnam. And to me, that's another really important part about becoming a company and creating a materialist good. Like, I don't want to be screwing over these people in another country or something like that. Like, I'm not going to go and go child labor or whatever for
Right.
the cheapest price. I wanted a real relationship with a really good manufacturer, and I was asking Jake and Corey, how do I get a relationship like that? How did you meet those people? And amazingly, they hooked me up with a couple of other manufacturers to talk to. I ended up actually going to Vietnam, and my bag is made in Vietnam. Like, by the way, all fabulous bags. I tried real hard to find some manufacturers in the United States, and most of them don't want to work with startups. It's
Mhm.
too risky for them. They're yeah, so we can talk more about that if you like. But through them, I got good advice from Jake and Corey, and then I also connected up with a woman who did design work on the side of running her own bag company. And so then now I started paying people. So I'm in this second chapter of the business where I'm uh, getting a design help for specific things, doing the CAD drawings and stuff like that. That really start being able to take it from the napkin to the design table, where then I can hand it to the manufacturer. And then I also started the patent process, because that was a
Mhm.
big piece of advice from these folks. And turns out a friend of mine teaches patent law at the University of Minnesota. See, I've got all these Minnesota Twin Cities connections. And he connected me up with a patent lawyer, and so we started that process. And then, of course, through that process, you have to define everything and give them lots of drawings and all this stuff. So that I quickly burned through my imaginary $8,000 budget getting these things together. And then that third chapter is working with my actual manufacturer. And I was lucky enough to in 2019 to go to Vietnam and tour a bunch of factories. And I actually had a lot of help from the zipper company, the YKK. Um, some of their representatives in Vietnam helped me out a ton by introducing me to a bunch of other companies and manufacturers. But I ended up working with the manufacturer that I had originally met through the Ethnotech bag folks. And then that process began the real meat of it, where we were doing prototyping. So I gave him all my drawings and we had Zoom calls and we started shipping prototypes back and forth from Vietnam, which is, again, like I would have preferred to do it with a local person, with an American uh, prototyper, but I couldn't find anybody.
Right.
I found one local guy. I thought it was going to be great. It seemed like we had a lot in common, and then he wanted $8,000 to make one prototype. It was just like, I could fly to Vietnam and sit there for a week with them and come
Right.
back and still have $6,000 left.
Right.
Like, what do you want? So I worked with my guy and we ended up doing about 8 prototypes back and forth over the spring and summer of 2019. And then finally, and again, my manufacturer, who is a fabulous guy and actually runs his own label as well, about 50% of what he produces is his own stuff. He helped me a lot by giving me advice. And so I'm not a bag designer who understands how to backstitch a triple seam or anything like that. I'm smart enough to say he knows what he's doing and this bag is great, and he and I guarantee every aspect of the manufacturing of this bag.
Sure.
So,
if I can just go back to, you said 3 phases, we can just go back to the first phase real quick and break that down. So you said you ran the numbers and you figured you could start this company with $8,000. I mean, where are you pulling those numbers from? Are you just sitting there thinking and like, oh, yep, this sounds right? Or what kind of research are you doing? Whatever the case may be.
Yeah, well, it was obviously wrong. I'm more like 60 or 70 grand into it by this point. But it's hard to say. I also believed that my Kickstarter campaign, that you just show up at Kickstarter and they start handing you money,
right?
Which is not how it works. So there was the number around the 8,000. Obviously, a bunch of that was the patent process, and I've probably ended up spending close to 10,000 on the patent process alone. But at the time, it looked like I was going to get through that with 3 or 4, and then help my bag designer person, the person who was good at originally doing the drawing. She was only going to be like a couple grand in consulting fees and time like that. And then there was like, oh, well, and then we'll start do setup. And the world is, even pre-pandemic, the world is set up for e-commerce now.
Mm-hmm.
The internet is what we all imagined it was going to be in the 90s, which is, I have a warehouse in Boise, Idaho, and I have the software that's all connected to it, and my marketing guy is in Utah, and my manufacturer is in Vietnam, and it's all coordinated, and we know what we're doing, and everything is tracked, and the money, I've got all these different ways to pay. It all works now. And so that's not very expensive, but to set up the e-commerce site and get things going,
Mm-hmm.
there's some fees and the warehouse fees, things like that. But most of that is ongoing. So those are where my bad math numbers came from. Kind of that idea.
And seems like the bulk of it was the patent process. I mean, do you think it's possible to do the patent DIY, or do you recommend find a lawyer right out the gate, just streamline it?
Yeah, find a lawyer right out of the gate. I mean, it is, you can do, and I did, you can search a lot of stuff on Google. There's a whole Google patent section of the US Patent Office and stuff. But of course, there's also global patents, international patents. And so
Mhm.
I don't know how that works. I don't want to know how it works, whatever. And you search and you search and you search and you can find a lot of stuff, and then um but then when I actually hired the lawyer and he's got his person who does the search, and they're like, oh, here's 17 other ones that I hadn't seen at all. And so it all worked out, and like it was still possible to do. But yeah, I mean, at a certain point, you don't want to be an expert on everything, or you'll
Right.
never get started, is my philosophy.
And with the manufacturing side, why is it that U.S. manufacturers are so hesitant to work with a startup? I mean, it doesn't seem like it'd be
Well,
much of their capital up front, just
yeah, right,
outside
right.
looking in.
Yep. So I only got one really good explanation from one manufacturer out of Chicago, and great guy. Does vast majority of his stuff is with the government, with the military, um, and he just, yeah. I mean, he had a couple of simple explanations. One is he's got the government contracts. He gets to charge them premium prices because they need to know that the supplier is in the states, and so therefore he can charge what he wants. And um, and so he's on easy street already. He doesn't really need new customers. Was kind of what he was telling me.
Hmm.
And then second, when he and which is understandable for him. The second thing was whenever he had done work with somebody like myself, a new startup, there is time on the manufacturing side, as you could imagine, in any factory setting. They've got to think it through and get their people and train them and get systems in place to create your product.
Hmm.
They can't just will you know free ball at all. They've got to
Right.
figure out. They need a team of people. One person does zippers, one person does straps, and so it's a process. And so there is some investment on his side. And what happened though is what he said would happen was he would work with somebody, get them up and running. They'd get a product. They'd do their first minimal 500-piece order, 1,000-piece order, and then if they had success and started coming back and ordering from him again, they would then take it to China and go for the super low price.
Of course.
And so he would lose, and so he was cycling through those startups and just saw it as not worth his time,
I imagine
which is under,
you're not able to turn around much of a profit there because
yeah,
if you're building somebody's prototype, that's time off your line of making your already established customers work. So I can understand that.
right, yeah.
When you
And
got over to Viet, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
so I was just gonna say my factory, the one I work with, my bag probably had about 15 different people working on it, which is just kind of mind blowing, right? And maybe even more. I don't actually know, but I do know of these 15 people who had to do all these different parts. And just to imagine, like, in mine, I mean, yes, sewing is sewing and putting a strap on is a strap on, but like to measure each little thing and make sure you do it right, and to fully guarantee it, like you can imagine getting 15 people to do the thing just right 500 times.
Right.
Like that's not an overnight process. So it's
And
an investment.
right. And so when you're over there and you're talking to the manufacturers in Vietnam, I'm in sales myself, and it's my job to go out and find people that aren't buying my company's product and convince them they should try it out and be friends with me too.
Yeah.
When you're over there, are you selling your idea and your product, or are they trying to make a sales pitch for you to come work with them?
Um, well, it was a little bit of both. It was more, they weren't really selling me. Now I toured 5 factories and met with a sixth um sales guy or whatever. And they were showing off, doing the like this. So they were doing a bit of a sales pitch, but they're also assessing me and trying to figure out if I'm really worth the time and the effort also. And in part, that it maybe attracted me in that kind of negative salesy way. The guy, my guy, Duck is his name, who owns the factory. he was basically telling me he didn't really want to work with me or need to work with me. But he was willing to work with me because I was a friend of a friend. This
Mhm.
my Jake and Corey. He was willing to have the meeting, and then I just arrogantly, I'll also say, I think he was intrigued by the bag design. I think that he mostly works in kind of the school bag, the kids book bag kind of market. And, well, he
Mhm.
also does a medical stuff. He does stuff for the Mayo Clinic, but well, and then some other also really strange things like a bag to carry your bike on an airplane. You know,
Oh,
if you have a $5,000 bike, you could break it down, and he makes those kind of bags too. But he did not work in this travel space, and I think that was attractive to him. So
sure.
he was like, I don't need you. You're kind of a nice guy. This is my factory. We can help you out. Is how the sales pitch went.
Sure.
And actually, that was great for me. Like, I didn't want to be sold. I didn't want to be, upsold or anything either. And I'm lucky enough to be working with him, the owner of the company. Sometimes you show up and you're like, they're like, oh, Mr. Secondary Assistant Manager will be your main contact. And you're like, oh, I'm not sure I want that.
Right.
So,
And you mentioned Kickstarter. What was your
yeah, yeah.
experience like with Kickstarter? Well, how'd that go? I've never used it before. I've seen it. I've helped out a couple different companies with it before, but obviously my side of the table is going to be a completely different experience than the person who's sweating to try to get their product out.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that would be kind of, maybe I would call that my fourth chapter. I don't want to get up to chapter 11 in this situation, by the way, but the the fourth chapter is starting the business would be that, like, actually starting it, like selling the product. And with Kickstarter or crowdfunding of any kind, what you do there is, you basically, you put your idea out, you somehow, ideally, a nicely made commercial, and say, here's my idea, would you buy this? And people pledge and say, that's cool, I want to support this company, I want to crowd fund, I'll pledge the amount of money that will get me the product when they finally make it. Just to define crowdfunding for people who might not know. And so you don't have to do anything. You can show up with a piece of paper or just make a video with your phone and be like, hey, I'm thinking about making a ladder for cats. Isn't that a good idea? Like, cats need to go up, and
Right.
people might give you money. Like, who knows? And then you got to go find a ladder manufacturer, or a bag manufacturer. Just start from once you get funded. But so, and that's another aspect of it. When you the customer or the backer back something, you give them your credit card, but they don't charge your card until the goal is reached. So, and the goal is set, saying like, if we get $16,000, I promise you, we will make these products and you'll get one.
Mhm.
But if we only get $15,000, no blood, no foul, no card is charged, nobody gets any money.
Sure.
That's the concept. And it's been around a while now, crowdfunding, Kickstarter specifically. And there's a lot of people out there who've really figured out how to do it. And there are companies who just use Kickstarter or crowdfunding as their marketing. And so there are companies, well-established companies on there, who will bring their 8 different products to market by putting it on Kickstarter. Which, good for them. If they can use their customer base and push them through the Kickstarter funnel and get that proof of concept before they even have to invest the money on the marketing or on the manufacturing. Great. But I knew I wanted to do this, so I was gonna do this, and I was gonna find the money in my child's college fund. If I Well, I was in that process of going the first 3 chapters that we talked about already. I was doing that already, and then planning the Kickstarter campaign. And so I was also hustling and trying to figure out how to do that. And for all those business people paying attention to this podcast, the thing about Kickstarter is it should really be called Kick Ender, because really, just like everything else that sounds too good to be true,
Right.
it's there's a whole lot of work that should go in on the front end. And basically, like, there's experts and people, snake oil salesmen will talk to you all day long about how to do Kickstarter right. Some of them are good, but there's a lot of them who are bullshitting you. But fundamentally, they'll be like, you know what you need to do to be successful on Kickstarter is a crowd of 1,000 people who are, you already know, are totally into your product before you even think about launching your Kickstarter campaign. And you need their email addresses and their phone numbers and all that kind of stuff. And 1,000 is good and 5,000 is better. And you know, and all of us normal people, you're like, I got like 200 people on my Christmas card list. Like,
Right.
I think I got a big list. And I'm like, I'm friends with 800 people on Facebook. I've been around a long time. And like, you think you know people, but it turns out when you know, when you're asking for their credit card, you don't know nearly as many people as you think.
Right.
So it's you know, it's a hustle. And ideally, you know, you're the kind of person who does in fact have 1,000 people, or can work your different groups, whether that be online groups like subreddits or whatever, or Facebook groups, or what, or maybe in person, and you're willing to go to your gym and like literally twist the arm of your buddies to get them to do it. But you know, you got to get like 1,000 people who are at least willing to sit down and watch your commercial, that ideally you is good enough that you don't look ridiculous, to do it. Oh, and by the way, that's another thing that I knew I was going to spend money on. And so I, back in my original envelope math, um, of making a decent Kickstarter video is like a $3,000 thing, probably. That's about what I spent, 3 to 5. And there are people who will charge you more, and there are people who charge you less. But you know, and I thought, in my video, my guy who did it, Matt Abraxas, from out of Boulder, Colorado, who is new Focus Media. There you go, Matt, for your shout out. He did a great job. Everybody constantly talks about my Kickstarter video, about like, that was a great video. I've never seen anything like it. That's amazing, super cool. And my, you know, and my bag concept is confusing enough that we did need a good video to show it and get the concept around. And Matt did a great job. But and yeah, and so then we set a price, a goal that had to do really with, it was the down payment on the manufacturing of the first run. And so it was $16,000 is what my goal was. And in only 30 days, a lot of people now are expanding their campaigns. You can do it. It used to be 45, but now I think on Kickstarter you can do a 60-day campaign. So whatever. I did a 30-day one, and we got over that mark, that $16,000 mark, and so successful campaign. And it was actually quite amazing. You know, it was like 40% friends and family kind of people who helped me out. And again, I do feel I'm a social guy. I had a decent network, but kind of amazing to think that 60% of these people like found us on Kickstarter. And you know, like some guy in Dubai who like backs 100 different things on Kickstarter. He was one of the guys who backed my bag. I'm like, thanks, man. So it was an interesting experience. Any business person should only look at it as just one channel of your multi-channel sales process. And you know, like anything else, it's hard work and you spend money doing it.
Yeah, 30 days just doesn't seem like very much time to raise any decent amount of money, for that matter.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
did you see a quick kick right out the gate and then kind of hit a plateau, or was it slow start and then it really ramped off towards the end?
Nope, exactly what you described. There was, you know, that first day we got up, we were like 40% of the goal, because of course that's all, you know, I had been pumping my network so hard, you know, 9 a.m. on Wednesday, you know, get on there.
Right.
Because that's what you want. You want to burst onto the scene, because then the algorithms in the Kickstarter system starts bubbling you up to the top and more people see you. And it's one of the many little tricks of that whole sphere. So yeah, we had that big bump, and then little trickle, and then plateau, and then you don't hear anything, and I started sweating, but then the slow creep towards the end. And then that's another thing, as a backer, you also they're playing games, they're psyching you out too. The other thing, like, oh, I'm only the kind of person who backs thing if I know for sure it's gonna succeed. I was like, well, that doesn't really help me. But on the flip side, I'm horrible. I'm like the opposite. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Oh, it's a long shot though. I'll pledge, but they're not going to make it. I just so, and then more than often than not, like, oh, I guess I bought a $70 T-shirt. Oh well, but so people play. It's really hard to figure out how it's going to play. But as we got closer to that 100%, it kind of creeped over, because I think some of the market likes to, like, everybody wants to be the last person to get you over the goal or something. I don't know.
Hey, outside of Kickstarter, did you have friends or family that you tapped directly through, or did you ask them to go through Kickstarter, or any outside investors for that matter?
Well, no outside investors, as as one would think of that. So yeah, and at the beginning, that was my launch of the company, was the Kickstarter. So everybody, my wife's cousin and all those great people who helped me out right at the beginning, I funneled them through Kickstarter, because I did need that bump right at the front. And maybe this is transition to another thing. Because we got connected because of our fraternity connection. And
Shout out to
another
Theta
my
Chi.
my Theta Chi, yeah. The other big reason that I have had the success I've had is my best friend is also one of my chapter brothers from Hamlin University, Todd Smart, who runs a business consulting company out of Chicago. And he's an entrepreneur himself and has had lots of success. And he is I won't go into all the things he's involved in, but amazingly smart business guy, works on a global level. And he also happens to be really into bags and my best friend. So super lucky to have him as a big resource. So in a way, he's an investor in that we talk almost every day, and I get to use him as my coach and mentor in the business world. And and uh, he was actually in Vietnam with me as well, which was a great party time to do, and went with on the factory tours. So no specific investors, but your question was kind of like, did I lean on friends and family? I definitely leaned on Todd and continue to do so.
And of course, on your website, going more into the product side of the house, you say that I'm striving to make the absolute best product with the best materials that will last a lifetime. This seems really counterintuitive to the typical American retail business model, where everything seems to break down or fall apart. 6 months, a year down the road, if you're lucky. Why take on this philosophy with a new company, especially during the this time period that we're in during hopefully at the
Yeah,
end of a
yeah.
pandemic? But
Well, not to lay a bunch of political cards on the table or anything like that, but maybe you can tell by me sitting in a yurt in the woods in California. But I really care about the environment,
Mhm.
and I'm a minimalist also, which is another facet of my bag design. Like, the whole concept is you could travel the world for months with only this carry-on size bag. And so to be a minimalist, to try to get people to pare down, which is also from my earlier job back in San Francisco of that professional organizer, stay organized and stay minimal, travel light. I don't want to create a bunch of shit. I don't want to be the bag that shows up in the discount bin that somebody uses and throws away. Um, and so that's why the bag is guaranteed for life. That's why I worked so hard to find the manufacturer who would back up his work 100%, so that I could back up his work and my work 100%. And I'm not a shopper. I'm not a guy who's buying new stuff all the time, as you can tell by my extremely fashionable Hawaiian shirt here. That's probably 15 years old. But so I just, I don't believe in consumerism,
Mhm.
which is weird place to be as somebody creating a product, I realize. But, I want this bag to be something that helps people so much that they never want to give it up. I want to be the Swiss Army knife of the backpack. I want this, like, I'll never leave my bedroom without my Swiss Army knife in my pocket. And it's the same Swiss Army knife I've been carrying for 25 years. It's actually not the same one, but the same model, if I may.
Right.
It's just like,
I think I still have my
and
original one from Boy Scouts.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is not the Boy Scout one. It's the actual Victorinox, but the Spartan model, which I highly recommend to anyone. Just to go in a different direction here for a second, but it does have the wine opener on it, and I'll tell you, I have been the hero of so many parties. It's this and this is not the original knife that I first started carrying in, like, not in Boy Scouts, but in like the early '90s probably, because they used to fall out of my pocket in taxis back when we took taxis. And so I finally got it on a lanyard. So then I stopped losing them. But I want my bag, I want this Journey bag system to be one that lasts forever.
Mhm.
And my previous bag, before I designed one for myself, was a bag that I bought in '94 in a outdoorsy shop in Milwaukee, and I use that bag for 20 years because I'm that kind of guy. I'm not a use it and lose it guy. I'm a reuse it, use it up, make do, make it better, fix it, and until it goes in the compost pile kind of guy.
Sure. And if you don't mind, since we talked about the bag enough, you have it with you in front of you. Do you mind just kind of
Oh yeah.
walking me through there? And folks that are on Twitch or on YouTube can see it then as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, and I appreciate that. And I've got one coming to you.
Yep,
And
I'm excited.
yeah, yeah. And sorry, I should have thought of that. I should have thought about the shipping process a little sooner. But also, and well, I'm sure you have the ability to post this later, but we'll set up a discount code for any of your fans. So we'll use Rules of the Arena as a discount code. They get 15% off the price, the purchase price, uh,
Perfect.
right off the bat. So so the before I start waving it around, I will
Mhm.
tell you, so a little bit of the concept again was is it's I wanted a system that was carry-on size to fit in, 95% of all carry-on airplanes back when we took airplanes system. It's a good size. It's a size that you can fit everything you need and still lift. So even though right now we're not taking airplanes, the concept of carry-on size makes sense. And then also, I wanted a system that was modular because there are my competitors, as I so arrogantly say. There's a number of bag companies out there doing great work. They're making great products. They're making cool bags, but what they're making is a daily commuter bag that expands, or that is a really big ass daily commuter bag, like bigger than you need to go to the office, or even on a weekend trip, because they're like, oh, and then you can take it to Tahiti or whatever. Or it expands, undo these clips and it unzips and then it's bigger. But then, so you're taking this big bag to the office or on your daily work or your errand run. But then on the flip side, or they're like, they've got too small a bag and they're trying to make you force everything into that. And my personal story was I started using a fanny pack, or as we should appropriately call it, a hip pack, or a bum bag, as they call it in the UK. I started using one around my property because once I leave my house, actually walk out the door, not only do I have my Swiss Army knife on me, but I have a handful of other things that one carries. We all carry with us. Women have a purse, but men struggle. And we used to have suits with lots of pockets. I'm also a sports coat guy, so I used to do that. But I'm not wearing a sports coat while I'm out chopping wood here in the woods. And so, you have your mobile phone, which is a smartphone, which is bigger. They're getting bigger in different sizes and more fragile, in my opinion, all the time. You got your earbuds case, For me, I'm starting fires, doing stuff, cooking bacon bread on a wood fire, and I got a hot tub that I run with. So I've got a lighter with me all the time. You got your truck keys with you, a couple other key things that you want on you at all times when you're outside, but not all the way to town. So I had this. So I started every day. I'm wearing the hip pack, and then you want to do your daily errands or weekly errands or whatever. I realized that I was constantly transplanting my stuff from my hip pack to my day pack, the stuff that because I need more than just this to go to town, where not only my wallet and stuff like that, but sunglasses, depending on where you're going and what kind of errand you're doing, a water bottle, hat, scarf, gloves, whatever, the thing you would take as your daily commuter pack, whether you're going to the grocery store or the office or whatever. I was transplanting my stuff back and forth. So I started thinking, like, wouldn't it be cool if they were one thing? Like the pocket was, you didn't switch it. So sorry for the long explanation,
No
but
worries.
that's where the you can edit all that out. That's where the concept came from. This concept of the two coming together, coming apart. And then once I had that, then it was like, well, wait a minute, wouldn't it be cool if we could also connect on a travel piece, so that when you're ready to travel for real, whether you're going away for the weekend, you're going away for a week, whether you're going away for a month, if you're a minimalist, smart traveler, you carry about 20 liters of volume of travel gear. Well, we could connect that. We could use the day pack as the foundational structure to, sorry, my battery's going low for a second, got unplugged. Make sure back. Sorry. So that this would be one thing. So a lot of bag companies also are like, oh, take our travel pack and then just put a day pack inside it. Well, now I'm carrying two bags. And so that's where my mind was at when I got around to the back of the envelope of creating this day pack. So I packed it up totally full, like you would do, like I'm going for a trip for a month, going to Europe for a month or whatever, on my way to Vietnam with my carry-on size backpack. So there's all sorts of parts to it and all this. That, sorry, my battery's going low. I think I'm
No
jumping
worries.
around, and then it comes unplugged.
Figure
All
out, now
right.
we got you back.
So yeah. So there's really fancy German-made buckles with magnets in them that you disconnect the travel portion of the bag from the day pack portion of the bag. So the day pack is a small pack. It's about a 15-liter bag or so. Inside this bag also normally comes, I don't carry it, but I didn't think to put it in here just now, a laptop sleeve that's removable, because there are some of us who don't travel with laptops. Some of us do. It only fits a 13-inch laptop, but that's kind of the travel laptop size. It's got the top access pocket here, which the hip pack fits down inside. So that's kind of where we ended up with the design process, so that your essentials, my phone and all my main stuff, are still right here at this quick access pocket. I leave the hip pack unzipped, right? So I can get inside here and carry a pen, etc. whenever I want. And that's at the top of my day pack. And then the day pack is kind of a typical, I think it's amazing. It's got a ton of great features, but I didn't invent any of these features. These are typical things. The water bottle pockets on the outside, really great comfort straps. There's pockets in each strap for like a quick access. Maybe you want your keys in here, your vape pen, what if you're that kind of person, your commuter card or whatever. That's like these just little quick pockets. There's a secret pocket back here that's totally secure, because when you're wearing it, no thief can get in there. You can keep I've got some extra credit card kind of stuff in there. And then there's good organization inside. Again, it's great organization. It's exactly what I think should be there, obviously, but I didn't invent that. I kind of stole the best practices from a number of different companies on that department. And then the travel pack, like I said, goes on there, and this is totally packed. I've got what I would take on a 2-week trip: pants, shorts, 3 or 4 pairs of not pairs, 3 or 4 shirts, etc. Oh, and pair of shoes fits in this lower section. You see how the day pack goes into this kind of pocket?
Mhm.
Well, that creates at the bottom here, this half creates a spot for we end up calling it the shoe garage, because it is sorry, it's hard. I don't want to move the camera around too much,
No, we can see it fine.
but see this here with we've got the Velcro that holds the stuff sack that comes with it, and that's a pair of shoes. My travel sandals fit right in there, and then you Velcro it in so that when you open it up, it stays inside that day pack. There's also a toiletries kit that snaps in on it, and it's just kind of the bucket model with mesh on the front. Keep all your
Mhm.
stuff in there. And then in addition to that, and this is why we call it a system, because it comes with all these different parts: the laptop sleeve, the day pack, the hip pack, the toiletries kit, the stuff sack. There's also a small tech stuff sack that goes in the day pack. And then another key feature, which again, I didn't invent, but I do, that 2 of these come with each system. And also, Gary, I'll guarantee them for life, even though they will uh, um, run out eventually, but just get back to me when they do. But it's a hand rolled vacuum bag. Have you ever seen any of these things before?
Not for travel. For of course, living in northern Wisconsin, hunting's the national pastime up here, and everybody has the vacuum sealed bags for
Yeah,
when
yeah.
they're putting meat in the freezer. But that's about it.
Oh, right, right, right. Okay, yeah. Well, but there's also, I thought you were going to say winter clothes or your hunting gear. So a lot of people use this kind of thing for long-term storage of
Mhm.
dried goods. Things like your camo or whatever. But usually they have a thing where you attach the house vacuum cleaner to it,
Sure.
and do it like that with the vacuum seal, like you do for meat. But these have a one-way air valve at the bottom of them, so they're like a big giant what do you call them? Ziploc bag. Sorry if I can get it, my fingers in between here. That opens up like a Ziploc bag and comes with a little tab thing that's easy to close. Make that Ziploc nice and easy to close, right?
Mhm.
And so in here, I've got my socks and underwear and a swimming suit and a sweater. That's our, warm shirt. My travels. This is my travel stuff. Fits in my suitcase all the time. So now you see there's air in there, but instead of having to carry around a vacuum pump or something like that, you just roll this up. I'll try to do this on this table. And I don't know if you can hear the little air thing.
Mhm.
I put my microphone by it. But you get the concept. It rolls,
Yeah.
you squeeze the air out of it. And it squishes this stuff down, takes all the volume out of it. You don't want to put anything in here like your pressed shirts, because it'll wrinkle them all to
Right.
hell. But with underwear and socks and stuff, it doesn't matter. And then I include 2 of these in each journey system, so that as you go through your trip, you can put dirty stuff in here, or even your wet swimming suit, and squish it, lock it, seal it. No odors come out, no moisture comes out. Carry it with your stuff, and so you can work your way through from your clean one to your dirty one, and then you get home and boom, toss it in the laundry. You're unpacked. So um, I could go on and on about features. The zipper has a locking feature, so you can put one of those luggage locks on it.
Mhm.
For example, YKK zippers all around, 450D material, which is really strong, but also soft enough. Like you could use this for a pillow if you had to sleep on the bus, if you were gonna. Um, so I'm really, really proud of the bag. I work, like I said, it's a thing I want people to have and cherish forever. So there was no expense saved on any of the materials. Like if there was the best zipper available, is the best possible lifetime guaranteed zipper I put on the system. Um, every seam is, double sewn and totally guaranteed by my manufacturer. What else can I tell you about? Oh, those German buckles. They're called Fidlock buckles. It's
Mhm.
super cool in that they kind of jump back together because they're magnetized. On the day pack, you can see the little attachment, the little male attachment of the
Yep.
buckle. And so it's real low profile. And then there's two more back here, and they don't dig into you. A lot of people on the Kickstarter were like, "Oh, those are going to dig into my back." You don't even notice they're there at all. And so that's how those are really expensive buckles, manufacturing wise, like $2.50 a piece, and each bag has four of them. Which, like, when I told my Vietnamese manufacturer that, he's like, well, you guys can't do that. And I'm like, no, we're getting the absolute best thing there is. We're not screwing around. So I'm really proud of it, and I can talk about it forever, but I'm trying not to be
Yeah.
boring. So
So of course, 2020, we're now in 2021, but 2020 has all but shut down travel, especially here, in the
yeah.
United States we're still not allowed to go internationally for the most part. I mean, how have you been able to navigate through the last year? And I mean, how do you predict of what 21 is going to bring you?
Well, it's been tough. There's no doubt that this is obviously all my fault, that I started a travel and commuter gear business, right, and launched in May of 2020. So obviously, yeah, sorry, but it's I think that the product is gonna make it, and we have been making it. We've been doing some decent sales internationally as well. Australia has been in the clear for quite a while, and luckily, I can market to them in my own language, so
Mhm.
that's working out. And again, that's the beauty of our modern internet, that I can couple of clicks on my Facebook business, and I can market to those people instead of people in the United States, or in addition to. Um, and as I've been working through this, some people have started to talk to me about using it as a bug out bag. I don't know if you're familiar with the term,
Yes.
the emergency bag.
Yep.
All right, I figured it'd be in a so, and that, I'm a little insulted by the concept, but because, like, no, this isn't just a thing you put in the closet and only use for that. Like, don't, a couple of cans of soup in your travel kit, like that's a crime.
Right.
This thing's designed to go on a first class trip to Europe. But if people want to buy them from me and do that, I can. That's okay. Um, but I've here in on the West Coast, people have been talking to me about using it for earthquake preparedness, and in fact, that makes a ton of sense,
Mhm.
because with your daily commuter bag, it's got all your stuff in it that you already are using. Like, shit you need tomorrow is the shit you're going to need tomorrow after the earthquake, right? And your tech and your backup tech and things like that are already in your daily commuter. If you've got to go in a minute, you don't want to be like, oh, I need the charger for my extra battery. Like, where is that, right? When you're doing that bug out, having your day pack combined seamlessly with your emergency kit, like, that makes a lot of sense. And so I'm kind of hoping, I haven't spent any money doing that marketing, but there are some people who are talking to me about that as a theme to take on. So
Mhm.
I hope to do that, but also, as we all do, I am hopeful in 2021, and I do believe that we're going to get out of this as we've come out of things all the time. And I'm hoping that we get into the roaring 20s. I think we all are. And I do believe there's going to be this pent up desire for travel. And I hope, and again, here getting back to the bigger theme about Idea Mountain, and why I am starry eyed enough, and to say I am trying to make the world a better place. I hope that by promoting this idea of this lifestyle of traveling light, that it in fact changes people's perceptions. And I think we are all changing our perceptions and realizing how important the human to human connection is.
Mhm.
And when we can get out again, god damn it, we want to go out again. And I like, all I want to do is go to a beer garden and talk to strangers, right? Like, that's like, I want to go make friends and somewhere and drink and like at a cafe or go dancing. Like, and so I hope that the journey system and my pontificating about traveling light, traveling more, traveling with ease will help people, the whole world, focus on what's most important about travel and about living in the world. And that is not about carrying 5 pairs of shoes, but in fact, like your time that you're spending talking to each other. It's like move lightly through the world so that you can spend time with people.
Mhm.
I hope I guess I am banking on the idea that this is something that we all want to do in
Right.
2021.
And I'll admit I'm guilty, and I might let my ego come into play more often than not when I travel. And I tend to overpack and end up not using everything I need. So for the average listener, they work a 9 to 5. Maybe they like to go on a little extended weekend vacation or mini adventure, hiking, whatever the case is. What are the essentials that we should have on us? Our everyday carry, if you will.
Yeah. Well, of course, everybody has their own um, idea what that means. But for me, the way I'd answer that question or do the best I can is I would say, a multi-tool is something that you should carry everywhere except into the airport, which I used to be able to do it in the airports too back in the day. But yeah, having a fundamental multi-tool of some kind, and I'm a Swiss Army guy, uh, and then or of course the flippant answer is, you only need half the stuff and twice the money, and you can get by with anything.
Right.
But but uh, extended weekend, or any trip, I would think about versatile clothing that is comfortable. A lot of people imagine, when they think about a trip, they imagine what the movies show you or something like, oh, I'm going to wear the flowy skirt when I go to the beach, da, 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 or whatever. Or I'm going to wear the seersucker suit when I go into what, and like, a regular person puts on that, or, they don't want to really be in those clothes very much. And if your travel gear is so different than your normal gear or your normal lifestyle, you're never going to feel comfortable. And then you're going to be like, pinching at your pants, or like, oh, these shoes are too tight or whatever. And you're not going to experience the experience. And so think about your comfortable stuff. But also, when I say versatile, I mean, um, in terms of looks too. And I think you can get by, you can hike in a collared shirt that then can also go into that beer garden or that restaurant, or that, for your appetizers at the end of the hike, kind of event, kind of experience, that, so you don't look like you just were out in the yard working. And so what I tell my friends to do when they're looking for travel gear is I'd say, look for something that can go into multiple settings. It can do your day hike. It could be on the shopping trip. It could go to the restaurant, without being stuffy. Yeah, but it could go to multiple places, still be comfortable, and be appropriate.
Well,
Um, so enough. I'm kind of going around because I'm not answering your question directly, because I think it's more of a philosophy than a
mhm.
list. If I, right?
Yeah.
Um, I will try to say, I will try again in a different way. Um, what you don't want in any travel situation is a lot of shoes, unless you're doing something really specific, like I'm going clamming by the ocean. I need my big boots. Like most, you need. you kind of need two pair of shoes. You need a pair of like active shoes and dress shoes, and ideally they can kind of cross over.
Mhm.
Your dress shoes are good, are comfortable enough that you could walk all day in them. Oh, and your active shoes aren't just shit kickers or flip flops that could translate into, oh, I'm going to spend the afternoon antiquing with my grandma and not look like a schlub. Like so, but that's all you need. You don't take a ton of extra shoes.
Mhm.
You only really need two pair of pants wherever you go. If we're speaking to the guys, you got one pair on and one pair in the bag.
Right.
You're done. You know, if you're going somewhere warm, or if it's that kind of warm season, you got one pair of shorts. You don't need to be a fashion plate and have 10 different outfits on this trip either. Like maybe you're traveling with a partner, they've seen all your clothes anyway. But if you're but if you're traveling by yourself, you're going to see different people. They don't know that you wore that same outfit yesterday. Like, don't worry about it.
Mhm.
Don't overpack to try to impress. And then finally, another kind of general rule. Sorry, I just keep falling back to general rules rather than lists. But in that whole wearing the same outfit over and over again, and the idea of versatility, you also want to have gear, all your gear, but your clothes that can take some abuse, right? Not only durability, which people who do hunting and different outdoor gear certainly understand, but also just abuse, like myself, like spilling the olive oil when I'm making lunch. You notice how my shirt has spots built into it. That's because I drip, I'm spilling wine or whatever on myself. But the subtle camouflage of the right kind of clothes can allow you to wear it more than once. So, and there are plenty of clothing out companies out there who are aware of all of these things, right? Like you go to REI and you go in their fancy shirt dial, they're not selling you white silk shirts. They're
Mhm.
selling you these like subtle pattern, durable kind of stuff that can go on the hike and go into the restaurant. And
Mhm.
that's what you want. So,
Of course. So if I'm a listener and I'm on the fence, I'm at that point where I need to get a new bag, and I'm eyeballing different brands. Why should I go with the Journey? Why don't I just go down to Megabuy Box Store or go online and just use my Prime account and I get free shipping that way, of course.
yeah.
So
We've got
what's
free shipping now, right now too, in the US. Just so
so what sets you apart from the competition?
well, I mean, if you want to if you want the cheapest bag in the world, like they give them away at the grocery store. Just take two plastic bags. I mean, there are ways to go cheaper. Um, so I do think it is the best designed bag out there for this particular kind of travel, this minimalist, flexible travel. And then I hope that people understand my kind of environmental message about the guaranteed for life thing. I want to get in front of that person who wants to go down to the big box store and pay $19 for a kid's book bag that's big enough to go somewhere, because that thing is gonna fall apart. You're not gonna be happy with it. The zipper's gonna break, it's gonna tear, it's not gonna be organized the way you want, and then you're gonna want another one. Well, and where's that piece of shit going? It's going in the trash.
Right.
And 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 so those are fundamental things. Like um you uh, kind of a weird throwback. You're probably way too young for this, but there was an old Tom Hanks movie called Joe versus the Volcano. I don't know where I'm going with this. I
I don't
haven't
think I
I
know
haven't
that
brought
one.
this up in a long time. It's a great movie. You should go see it. It's from like the 80s probably. But in the movie, I won't go into two of it. But he's gonna die, so he goes on a trip. Turns out he's not gonna die. Blah blah blah.
Mhm.
But what actually saves his life is his luggage. So it's in the bag community. This is a cool movie. But when he goes in to buy the luggage, there's that famous line, the kind of dad advice that every parent should give a child who's going out into the world, and that is get the best gear you can afford because it's going to support you and it's going to last longer. And that is where I want and where I do believe the Journey system is. Like, don't try to nickel and dime your this gear that you want to that needs to support you all the time. There are other bags. So yeah, there are other bag companies out there that are in this kind of high quality department, and you should check them out. Like, Google, search that stuff, decide. I think that the Journey system, with its modularity and its sleek look, can beat out these other companies. But if you don't like modular, if you just want one big bucket system or something like that, or you like that they have a pink one and I don't have a pink one yet, but whatever bag you get one that you can carry wherever you go. That's big enough to take what you need, but it's not so big that you overpack. I
So
don't know.
now
Is
looking
that it?
back, yeah, no, absolutely. Just curious though, now with the, with the launch of the company and you have some experience under your belt, what would you say has been some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome, and what have been some of the biggest rewards for you through this journey?
Ah, great podcast question. Good job, Terry Gross. The the um, the biggest challenges for me, and again, I'm very lucky to be able to do any of this. So I shouldn't bitch about anything really. I'm very lucky. Uh, but and trying to take the pandemic out of it, because obviously everybody's challenged by that, and I am maybe more challenged, but taking that out of the equation, it's just like any business owner, and anybody who's read any entrepreneurial books should already know, but I'll say it again for the crowd, and that is, running a business is really only like 2% inspiration, and the rest of it, can be fun, but is a slog. Not necessarily, not always perspiration, as the whatever the Thomas Edison quote, but
Mhm.
you only get to really sell a bag or talk to people about how to pack like 5% of my time, right? Like, most of it is trying to figure out which digital marketing agency to go with, and like, oh, and the shipping company, and like, which, do I work with DHL or UPS, and all of that kind of crap, right? It's So the biggest challenges are what any business struggles with, is the accounting and the funding and the data management stuff, which again, I'm lucky I have good systems in place, and in modern times it's way better than it used to be. But that's definitely where you struggle, and being a sole proprietor, I'm the only guy making the decisions.
Mhm.
I'm shooting in the dark a lot of the times. Hiring a consultant, it's a 50-50 shot. Like, he could be trying to rip me off, he could be the savior. I don't know. I just got to make a decision. And being out there by yourself, you always hear that from entrepreneurs about the feeling alone. And I'm lucky. I've got friends of my family, and my close chapter brother Todd has been fabulous. So I'm not as alone as some, but that's the biggest challenge. It ultimately comes down, I'm spending my money, and I got to figure out how to do that so that I can succeed. And it feels like a gamble. It feels scary,
Mhm.
but the rewards are on the flip side. I'm in charge. I'm I do get at least this 5% chance to talk to people about how travel is great for your life, how being prepared is how you should go through life, and talking about gear and bags and how you carry things. I get really excited about that. I love to talk to people about what they're carrying and why they're carrying it. And why is your wallet? Why do you have a wallet like that? What do you do? How much do you keep in your wallet? What are you doing? Like, I've always been that guy. A wallet is another thing I intend to sell down the line. I've got some ideas, but so the joys are definitely having people excited about they're using my gear and they're loving it, and I get to talk more about how to use it better. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Of course, for someone out there that's listening and they have a groundbreaking idea for an idea or product, and they're not sure where to go or what to do, I mean, what advice would you give to them?
Well, I mean, if it's in the bag space, or even in any sort of travel gear space, hit me up. I'll let me know what it's like. Let's see if we can work together. And if I've got no idea, or I think it's a horrible idea, I will try to steer you in the right direction. Um, and so so that's the first answer. And the second level answer is, do your research. Just figure out if in fact you do have a new idea, and if you do have this new idea, and it is like, figure out if people would like it. Like, you have to talk to enough people to see if it's an idea that people would put money to. So don't just talk to your mom because she'll buy it, but
Right.
talk to the assholes at the bar who'll give you shit everything, and see if they could understand the concept. I mean, that's the first place to start, and it's not that hard, right? And if you do have that, well, then, do you have can you make the leap, and 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 start the real hard work of actually getting the rubber to meet the road? Those are the questions you got to ask yourself.
Mhm. And lastly, but most importantly, where can people find Idea Mountain to purchase their own journey bag, and where can they find you on social media and on the internet?
Yep. Thank you. Idea Mountain, ideamountain.com. Like a big pile of ideas. IDEA, Idea Mountain.com. And so on all the platforms, from Pinterest to Twitter, it's Idea Mountain. And Facebook is probably where you'll see the most content if you want to be a part of that, or follow or like or whatever they do on that page. Idea Mountain has a page. You can contact me. My phone bings. On the website itself, there's a chat function. It'll come right to my phone. We can chat all night. You can text me. My phone number is on the website. I won't answer if it's the middle of the night, but people can try. And so the website is obviously the best and most direct way to do it. I do have the bag listed on Amazon, but the price is the same. So come to me. You can learn more about how to use it, and what it looks like and what the features are on the website. So ideamountain.com.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And don't forget to use the promo code Rules of the Arena and get 15% off of your journey bag. And I'll make sure to put the link in the show description below. Thank you again, Tys. Appreciate you coming out on the show, taking the time to do this.
Absolutely. It's a super cool thing. And you obviously, I think you got a career in asking questions. You do your research and you ask good questions. And I think you had a couple of beers there. I hope that, hope it's not
that's one thing I miss about the studio, is having the two homebrews on tap at any given time while I'm down there, but got to make do up here.
Nice. Yep. Well, good for you. That's sounds like a good gig that way.
Well, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. We will catch you next time.